you're having a good day today. I just wanted to show you guys some of the books that I have. If you didn't know this about me, I'm a bit of a book nerd. You know, despite my appearance, I look like a bit of a skater boy today. But despite that, I am quite a bit of a book nerd, a bookworm. So I just wanted to show off some of the books that have either influenced me or I think are worth a read. So expect a lot of tapping sounds in this one. And I'll probably trace some of the covers as well. So there'll be some tracing and tapping and stuff like that in this one. So hopefully you enjoy that. Let's just get into it, I guess. The first book I have, I read back in high school for me. So quite a while ago. We'll say that. We'll say it was quite a while ago. It definitely had an influence. It definitely had an influence on how I take in media, I guess. Like, had an effect on the type of pop culture I got into. But the book was Ready Player One. Ready Player One. I was kind of obsessed with this book in high school. I absolutely loved it. It's about like a high schooler in the year like 2040, and their like entire society takes place inside of a video game, a virtual reality video game. And the creator of it dies and leaves behind an Easter egg. And then the main character is trying to solve the Easter egg in order to get the prize, which is like inheritance of the owner's fortune and like ownership of the Oasis, which is the game that everyone's playing. But it has a lot of references to the 1980s and pop culture of the 1980s, which is where I get, it's like probably like responsible for about like 30% of my love for everything 80s. This book hit me at the right time. I was already into 80s culture. And then I read this and I was like, oh, I like it even more now. But it's Ready, It's been like a couple of years since I've read this, and it holds up in my brain, but I don't know if it actually holds up on an actual reread. It does have a sequel, and I absolutely despise the sequel. It is terrible. It was made after a movie adaptation was made. So it was basically just a big cash grab to try and like sell the rights so he could get a sequel to the movie. At least that's what I think anyway. But it's not good, and it makes me not want to read this again, because I don't know if it's going to make me think differently of the characters in this book, knowing that the canon of it is just totally out of whack. But this book in itself was very good when I read it last, so I really hope it holds up. that's enough of Ready Player One. Let's move on to the next book that I have in store for you. Alright, okay. The next book that I have here is by a very famous author. I'd be surprised if you had never heard of this author before. Does a lot of thriller and horror books, and this book has a movie that's been made of it, and I think it's definitely in like the top 5 of my favorite movies ever, and it made me want to read the book that it's based on. And after I read it, it's now in the top 5 books I've ever read. So this is a recommendation if you are looking for something to read and you've not read this before. And even if you've seen the movie and you think it's going to be the same, it's not. They're quite different. Both good though. But it's The Shining by Stephen King. This book is fantastic. I read it last year. I think I read it about this time last year. And it's like stuck with me ever since. I've even bought there's a sequel to it as well. It's actually behind me. Here it is. So there's a sequel to it, which is Doctor Sleep. But I haven't finished that. I've only read the beginning of it. So, but yeah, The Shining. I absolutely adored probably not the right word. I loved the Stanley Kubrick movie adaptation, and heard that the book was quite different, which it is, but at the same time, it's not. It's like as if someone told a story to two people, and then like 20 years later, they both then made their own. Like they told the story, but their memory had changed what had happened. That's kind of what it feels like. It feels like this is one person's interpretation of what was told, and then the film is another person's interpretation of what was told to them. If you somehow don't know what The Shining is, it's about a man and his family being put in a hotel. So the dude, Jack Torrance is his name, gets a job as the caretaker of the Overlook. Is it Overlook? It should say on the back. It is Overlook. Overlook Hotel. And it's over the winter, like the winter period, and it's on a mountain, so it snows, and they basically become like stuck in the hotel over the winter period. And it's like a slow, I guess you could say it's like a slow descent of like madness, but also the Outlook Hotel has like some entities in it that are also causing grief. Shining. But yeah, if you're looking for something to read, I would recommend this out of the most of the other books that I have here today. pages that it is. It's really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. The Shining by Stephen King. Absolutely love that book. Next up is a very old book. You'll see in a second when I grab it. You'll see how old and tattered it is. But I've had this for quite some time. It's not actually my copy. I believe it's my brother's copy. But it's lived in my room for like as long as I can remember. Probably since the book came out. Actually, it's a series of books, and they all sit on my shelf over there. And for the longest time, I never actually read them. I had looked at them my entire childhood, and had seen the movies that are based off them, but never had I ever read any of the books until about 4 years ago. I decided I had like some spare time at work, and so I decided, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna finally read this. So I picked up the first one and read it, and then my obsession with reading began. This is responsible for why I read so much at my job. But it is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And you can tell, look how old this thing is. It's like absolutely tattered. It's just like even the front, it's all. I'm pretty sure it's even got like some of the pages taped. Yeah, some of the pages here are like taped because they've fallen out of the book. It's that old. But yeah, you can blame this book for my like obsessed reading. And if you've been living under a rock and you somehow don't know what the Harry Potter series is, it is Harry Potter goes to magic school and learns spells and things, and then almost dies every year. Like every year, he almost dies. I think, except for maybe no, every year he almost dies. I guess if you want to know my favorite because I've read all of them now, my favorite book is The Half-Blood Prince. I think that's my favorite Harry Potter book. I remember when I was reading these, it would take me like a while to get through them, and I got to the Goblet of Fire, and it took me months. I was such a drag, that one. It was so like dragged on and on and on. But then I got to Half-Blood Prince, and I think I read it in like 4 days. It's like an 800-page book, and I would like blitz through it. So I think I think the reason I blitzed through it was because I just enjoyed it so much. It was the most like engaging one to me. because that's kind of odd. And then on the back here we have Dumbledore, 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 Ron Weasley, Dumbledore. That's an old video. But we have Dumbledore here on the back with his big beard and Deluminator. He's holding the Deluminator, which removes the light from an area. So he clicks it and it would turn off the light, and then he clicks it again and the light goes back. So, moving on to the next book now. This one is another very important book to me. I guess all these books are really important to me. But this one definitely cemented ideologies in me that I kind of held before, but it helped me realize and understand that I had these certain beliefs. This book is quite famous by another famous author, but this one quite a bit older than Stephen King. I read this a couple of years ago now, and it's stuck with me ever since. Annoyingly, this book can be used by dumbos on the internet as like an argument's sake. They just reference this book as like a way to win arguments. And you can kind of see it poking in the corner there. I wonder if anybody recognizes what it is. But yeah, people try and use it as like a way to win arguments, which is kind of dumb. Because if they had actually read the book, they would know what's actually going on. But it is 1984 by George Orwell. This book is phenomenal. I think everybody needs to read it. It has such a good look at what a tyrannical government system can do to people. How having this tyrannical government will just absolutely destroy like individual freedoms. It's a grim look into what a potential future could be if governing systems are left unchecked by the people, and like freedom of press and freedom of expression are ruled out and no longer like are made like illegal and stuff like that. It's very scary. This is more scary than The Shining to me. This book is way scarier than The Shining, mainly because The Shining couldn't happen, whereas I feel like this could. I very much can see like this is an actual possibility of the future. So it's quite a scary book. And the reason it's called 1984 is because it takes place in 1984. But the book was written in the 40s, I believe. Does it say... 1949. So 1984 was published in 1949, and it was the telling of what would happen in 1984, of a future with a, I guess kind of, it's like communistic, but it's more so a like tyrannical leadership, I think there's not really like a leader, but there is a figurehead that is their leader. But I think everybody should read this book. It's not going to be for everyone. It has a lot of long drawn out sequences where like you could get bored really easily. But I think the morals and the lessons you could learn from this book are necessary for any adult trying to participate in like a Western society. That'd be Big Brother's eye poking out there, because Big Brother is always watching. Yeah, a really great book. I don't think people should be forced to read it, but it is something that I think everyone should read. Okay, alright, that'll be enough of good old 1984. We'll move on to the last book now. I said we'll move on to the last book now. Alright, so the last book I have here is the one that if you go away today feeling inspired to read something or wanting to know what kind of books that I really enjoy and find interesting, this next one, I'm not sure if it's my favorite book ever, but it is up there. It is really, really up there. A little bit of back context as to why I read this book. The author has three main books, and I own all three. But the first one that he published was made into a movie, and I saw that movie in theaters when it came out. And at the time, I didn't really read books. I wasn't a big reader back then. So what I did after I watched the film, I went online and found an audiobook of it and listened to that while playing Minecraft. But I fell in love with the way that he wrote books and really enjoyed it. So when I started getting back into reading, I looked up the author again to see what else he had written, and I found this book that had come out not too long before I had actually decided to look him up again. It'd been like a month that this book had been out, so I bought it, read it, absolutely adored it. I loved it as much as I loved the first one, and then bought his second book. So this is the third book I'm going to show you, and then I bought the second book. So I read the first one, then the third one, then the second one. None of them are connected. It's just the authors. It's just what the authors put out. But this would make more sense if I actually showed you what I was talking about. So let's do that. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And so the first book that he put out is The Martian, which had Matt Damon playing in it where the guy gets like stuck on Mars. They go on a trip to Mars, and then he gets left behind, and he has to survive out on Mars. Which that is another book that is absolutely phenomenal. But Project Hail Mary, I think I like a little bit more. It is another sci-fi where a dude is alone in space. But in this one, the sun is slowly dimming, and scientists have noticed this red line, this like red wave line coming out of the sun. I think it's like infrared or something. But these scientists discover this, and they find out eventually that it is like a bacterial life form that is slowly taking away the energy from the sun. And so our main character is sent out into the far reaches of space to try and discover a way to eliminate this like bacterial thing that's causing the sun to dim. So they trace down where it's come from, and find out that the sun of the solar system where this like bacteria comes from isn't dimming. Somehow it's the only one that isn't. There's all these other stars in the galaxy that are dimming, and this is the only one that's not. So humankind works together to create a spaceship in order to send people over there in order to solve this issue. And it only takes place in like the not so distant future. It's like, I think it's set in like, it doesn't actually say when it's set, but you can infer that it would be like only 10, 20, 30 years from now. So humans aren't actually equipped to travel that deep into space, and along the way, the two other members of the spacecraft die, and so he's left alone in outer space. He wakes up with amnesia as well, so he doesn't actually know what's going on or what he's doing out there. And yeah, so it's a fantastic book of him slowly discovering what it is he has to do, why he's out in space by himself, slowly discovering what he has to do, and then trying to, one, understand what's going on with himself, but two, like understand or try and help fix the dying sun problem and get that back to Earth. It is a very heavily science fiction, like it's actual science fiction. Like what they talk about in this is science. There's actual science going on. It's not like fantasy sci-fi, which you get with like Star Trek and Star Wars and stuff like that. This honestly feels like it's something that could happen in real life. Like how The Martian was based in real science. There's botany and like actual like rocket science going on, and that's the same as what's going on in this. It feels real almost. There's no like make-believe fairy tale science stuff. It's all like theoretically possible, like I guess. But yeah, if you go away today and you want to read something, Project Hail Mary, I absolutely recommend this book, especially if you're into sci-fi, which I am. I realize reading Andy Weir's books that I'm very into sci-fi. I didn't actually know that before. I think to end this out, I'll stop talking for a little bit, because I rambled on. I very much like this book. I don't know if you could tell, but I get like rambly when there's something that I enjoy. I just want to talk about it for ages, because I don't actually know anybody else who's read this book. Like, I literally know no one who has read this book. But I'll stop talking for now, and I'll just make some nice sounds with it to close out this video. spaceman floating in space up there. Thank you so much, everybody who's made it this far. I know it's a bit weird, or at least I find it a bit weird, just doing man, my brain's dying. It's like midnight at the moment. I just want to go to bed. I know it can be a bit like awkward to watch rambly videos. At least it is for me when I watch rambly videos. They're not as tingly, but sometimes when the subject matter is interesting, they can be engaging to watch. And that's why I wanted to do this one. So thank you for all of those who were able to bear through my nerdy ramblings about some of the books that I like or had influence on me as a person. And I hope you too will pick up one of these books and maybe read it and then talk to me about it in the comments or something.